So, let's talk about this so-called sixth sense everyone jokes about. You know, the one where your gut tells you something's wrong before your brain even catches up. It's not a superpower. It's not magic. It's not some mystical fortune teller trick. It's pain, rewired, hardened, weaponized. You walk into a room, everyone's smiling, pretending, putting on their social masks. But you don't just see the smiles. You hear what's behind them. You feel the tension in the air like humidity before a storm. Your body goes cold. Your instincts shift into high alert, and something whispers inside you. They're lying. And you know what? They usually are. You start noticing the details. The fake laugh that ends half a second too early. The twitch of an eyebrow. The micro-expression of resentment behind a compliment. The flicker of eyes when someone hears your name and pretends they don't know who you are. You were trained by the world. By liars who smiled to your face while plotting behind your back. By people who said, "I love you," while handing you a knife. By betrayal that made you fluent in human deception. Now, you spot the red flags before they turn into crimes. You sense danger not by logic, but by energy. Your instincts scream warnings while others still fumble for evidence. And this is where the problems begin. People don't like it when you see them. You make them nervous. Because most people are hoping their masks will hold. But yours don't crack. They shatter. You don't even have to say a word. Just being in the room with you makes people feel seen. And people hate feeling seen for what they actually are. They don't want you to know that their love is performative, that their confidence is cracked, that their intentions are manipulative, selfish, or plain ugly. They want you to clap for the show, not walk backstage and see the wires. But you don't buy the performance. You walk in, take one look around, and go, "Ah, a theater of lies." They sense it in your silence, in the way your eyes don't play along, in the way you watch, analyze, and record, without reacting. You don't attack, you don't scream, you just know. And that terrifies them more than anything, because silence is power, and knowledge is control. Now you're the danger in the room. You don't need a dossier. You don't need a backstory. You don't need to dig through their past or read their messages. You just need one conversation, one weird shift in tone, one fake laugh, one offbeat smile, and boom, you've got them pinned. Fake, shady, snake, masked. People don't realize their vibes scream louder than their voices. They might say, "I'm proud of you," but you hear the bitterness in their throat. They might say, "No, it's fine, seriously." But their eyes are avoiding yours like you're holding a gun. You've become something terrifying, a human lie detector, not by choice, by necessity. You had to grow up like this. Maybe your childhood was a war zone where words meant nothing and glances meant survival. Maybe you were surrounded by manipulators, narcissists, fakes, charmers, frauds. And you learned the language of deception like it was your first dialect. Now you walk through life sniffing out intentions like a bloodhound on caffeine. You can tell when someone's talking just to hear themselves. When someone compliments you to gain something later. When someone smiles because they're scared you figured them out. You don't react. That's the secret. You don't let on that you see the cracks. You let them talk. Dig their own holes. Reveal their own rot. Because people expose themselves when they think they're safe. And with you, they never are. They feel you watching, calculating, sensing. They sense the weight of your silence. Your silence says, "Keep talking. I'm filing everything." You've caught people mid-lie without opening your mouth. You've watched entire relationships crumble because you said 3 words. Are you sure? That's all it takes when your presence alone feels like an interrogation light. They can't lie to you. And they can't figure out how you know. And let me tell you, that drives them crazy. This one's the paradox. You're the most aware person in the room. The one who catches onto patterns, red flags, contradictions, double meanings. You're not fooled by drama. You don't fall for the theatrics. You just see things before others do. Sometimes years before they do. But instead of being praised for your insight, you're distrusted. They call you overdramatic, too intense, overthinking it. All while knowing deep down, you're usually right. You don't give blind trust. You're not easily impressed. You don't chase validation or approval. That makes you dangerous. Because people don't fear what they can control. They fear what they can't understand. And you're unreadable. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're planning. They don't know what you know about them. That uncertainty keeps them awake at night. They don't trust you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you don't need anything from them. You're not needy, you're not desperate, you're not a people pleaser, and that makes you unpredictable. Most people trust what they can manipulate. You're immune. So they flip the script. They try to paint you as the problem. You're too distant. You're not transparent. You're guarded. But it's not that you're guarded. You're just not stupid. You've learned what happens when you hand people your trust too soon. They treat it like a toy, a weapon, a tool to use against you later. So now, you smile, nod, and let them reveal themselves. Because trust isn't earned with words. It's earned with consistency. And most people don't have the stamina for that. They fail your test before they even know they're being tested. Let's not sugarcoat it. You didn't choose to be this way. You were forced to become this version of you. Your sixth sense didn't drop from the heavens. It rose from the ashes of everything you survived. This isn't some fairy tale superpower. It's PTSD with a PhD in human behavior. It's what happens when your innocence gets shattered before you ever had a chance to use it. You didn't get to be naive. You didn't get to assume the best in people. Because early on, you learned something most people spend their lives denying. People lie. And not just little lies. We're talking weapons-grade deception. The kind of lies that turn love into warfare. The kind of lies that destroy you while smiling to your face. Maybe it was a parent, a sibling, a teacher, a lover, someone who told you they had your back right before they pushed you off the edge. That's when it started. That sharp feeling in your gut every time someone said, "Trust me." That cold wave that washed over you when someone swore, "I'd never hurt you." You believed them. Once, then twice. Then the third time, you felt it. You felt the crack behind their eyes, the delay in their voice, the disconnect between what they said and what they meant. Your body reacted before your brain could. And just like that, your sixth sense was born. Not as a gift, but as armor. And every time someone betrayed you, the armor got stronger. Every time someone used your kindness against you, your instincts grew sharper. You stopped listening to words. You started listening to energy. Now people say, "You're so good at reading people," but they don't know the cost. They don't know how many nights you spent replaying conversations, trying to figure out what you missed. They don't know how many gut feelings you ignored, until they exploded in your face. They don't know the paranoia that comes with being right too often. They don't understand that hyper-awareness is not fun. It's not cute, it's exhausting. You don't just hear what people say, you hear what they're trying not to say, what they're hiding, what they're afraid you'll figure out. You've become fluent in silence, in tension, in body language, in reading rooms like crime scenes, and it's lonely. Because while everyone else is enjoying the party, you're over here analyzing the lies holding the room together. But this isn't about being a victim. This is about survival. This is about turning your trauma into radar, your wounds into weapons, your pain into precision. You didn't become like this because it was cool. You became like this because the world left you no other option. You ever notice how the ones who don't mess with you anymore still view your story the second you post it? Yeah, they don't talk to you, but they watch you like a hawk. They avoid you in person, but analyze your every word online. They won't sit at your table, but they know exactly what's on your plate. Why? Because you make them uncomfortable. Not by what you say, but by what you see. You don't play dumb, you don't play blind, you don't validate their illusions. You walked away from the game, and that makes you a threat. They don't trust you because they can't predict you, and they can't predict you because you're not running on ego. You're not in the business of control. You're not manipulating anyone. You're just sitting back, watching everything unfold. And that drives them insane, because deep down, they know you see through them. They know you figured them out. And the truth is, they're afraid of what you'll say, but they're terrified of what you'll keep to yourself. Your silence is a vault, and they don't know what's inside. So instead of facing you, they ghost you, avoid you, distance themselves, but they can't stop looking. You became the mirror they can't shatter, so they choose distance, while obsessing from the shadows. That's why you catch them watching your story at 2 a.m. That's why they bring your name up in rooms you haven't been in for years. That's why people you haven't spoken to in ages still feel the need to defend themselves to others. Because your presence haunts them. Not because you hurt them, but because you saw them, clearly. And once someone sees you with clarity, there's no going back to pretending. You didn't expose them publicly. You didn't throw dirt. You just left. Silently. Decisively. And now, your distance is the loudest thing in the room. Let's get something straight. You're not cold. You're not heartless. You're not emotionless. You just learned the hard way that being understanding is code for, let me walk all over you while you stay polite. So now, you've got boundaries. You've got silence. You've got this calm, detached vibe that screams, try me. I dare you. People can't manipulate you like they used to, because you've stopped giving them the reaction they want. You don't chase closure. You don't beg for clarity. You don't explain your vibe anymore. You just withdraw. And oh, they hate that. Because emotional manipulators, they thrive on your confusion. They want you to question yourself. But now you don't. Now, when the vibe's off, you leave. No announcement, no drama. Just gone. They call you cold for protecting your peace. They call you arrogant for not accepting disrespect. They call you too much when they can't handle the fact that you refuse to play dumb anymore. Because that's what you used to do, right? Smile through the discomfort. Laugh off the red flags. Give people second, third, fourth chances. Convince yourself you were overreacting, that maybe you were the problem. Not anymore. Now you let people show who they are. Once, and you believe them. And you act accordingly. That's not cold. That's evolved. Because peace is expensive, and you're no longer offering discounts. People want access to the old you. The one who didn't see the truth. The one who made excuses for bad behavior. The one who stayed quiet to keep the peace. But that version of you? Dead and buried. Now you protect your energy like a bank vault. You don't argue. You don't debate. You don't explain. You just observe and exit. And nothing is scarier to a manipulator than someone who refuses to play the game. Here's the cruel irony of it all. They envy you. Not openly, of course. Not to your face. But deep down, in the quiet corners of their minds, they wish they had your clarity, your vision, your power to see through people. They call it paranoia. They call it overthinking. But when no one's looking, they're trying to copy it, trying to develop their own gut instinct, trying to spot red flags before they explode, trying to be more intuitive. But here's the catch. They couldn't handle the truth. They couldn't survive a single day seeing the world through your lens. Because the moment you truly see, you also start grieving. Grieving every version of people you thought were real. Grieving the idea of love you held onto. Grieving the fantasy of loyalty, friendship, family, even hope. They want your strength, but not your story. They want your insight, without the trauma that created it. They want your sharpness, without the pain that forged the blade. You paid for this gift with tears, blood, heartbreak, and silence. You built it from ground zero, from the ashes of trust burned to nothing. And now, you see the whole field. You're 10 moves ahead. You notice who mimics your words, your energy, your detachment. They want your chill, your mystery, your calm. But it's not calm. It's clarity. You're not unbothered because nothing affects you. You're unbothered because you've already been through worse. They see your silence and mistake it for peace. But it's not peace. It's precision. You speak when it matters. Move when it counts. React only when the situation deserves it. Everything else, you let burn. Because some things are beneath your response now. Some people don't deserve access to your reaction, your pain, your fire. You're not unavailable. You're just not wasting your signal on weak frequencies. They want your strength, but they forget. This strength came from being broken, over and over, and surviving anyway. They couldn't handle being you. They want the result, not the process. They want the crown, not the scars. And that's why they'll never have it. So here we are. You, the silent observer, the truth magnet, the storm wrapped in stillness. They still don't get it. They think you're cold, distant, maybe even heartless. But you're not. You feel everything, more than they ever will. You just learned the art of not reacting to every little storm. Because some battles aren't worth bleeding for. Some people aren't worth explaining yourself to. And some situations deserve your silence more than your speech. You became the one who walks away first, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. You don't chase chaos anymore. You watch it destroy the people who tried to drag you into it. They don't know how close you were to exploding. They don't know how many chances you gave quietly. They don't know how many fake apologies you forgave, until you didn't. Now you're different. Now they call you too distant. But guess what? That distance? That's protection. That's peace. That's power. And it's yours. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. Let them make up stories to explain your silence. Because the truth? You don't owe anyone clarity. You owe yourself peace. You're not antisocial. You're just anti-bullshit. And if that makes you the villain in their story, so be it. Some stories need a villain to make sense of their own weakness. But between us, you're not the villain. You're the plot twist they never saw coming. This is why So Deranged, where truth sounds like madness until the mask falls off. See you next episode. Or not. Either way, I'll feel you watching. Because trust me, I always do.